Alright, in this video we are going to do a review on the long-awaited JAE-700 from MDT. So this is a re-release of the JAE-700. So this is the JAE-700. The history of this stock goes back probably close to maybe a decade and has been around for quite a while. MDT has picked this up and re-released it. I was really excited when MDT announced that they had actually purchased the rights to this chassis. And we did some field work. We're going to roll some of that footage in here as we go through the review here, and we'll probably bounce back here to talk a little bit more about it. But this was one of my favorite chassis, and one of the reasons I was so excited for this chassis to be released was ergonomically, it was about the most comfortable chassis I ever shot. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. And that's me being honest. I mean, you'll see people do reviews and everything that comes out is the greatest chassis they've ever touched or the greatest caliber. If I don't like something or it doesn't fit me well, that's okay. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just doesn't work for me. So when I say that this is by far the one chassis that has absolutely stunned me as far as something that fit me so well that, you know, when I got excited about it, I started telling my customers about it and they started purchasing them and they still shoot them to this day. And it was a sad day when J. Allen went out of business. I felt really bad. I thought they probably had the best and maybe over-designed chassis on the market. I thought ergonomically was one of the most comfortable chassis I've ever shot. And as far as like finding your stock, that's the most important part. Is this one fit me so well. And what I learned over the years of building the rifles, especially featuring the JAE-700 chassis, was that a lot of the customers agreed. A lot of the customers that shot the J. Allen still shoot it today. And until J. Allen went out of business, you know, they are still huge fans. One or two has gotten rid of them and moved on to other things only because there was no aftermarket support. So once the stock went out, you couldn't find different things that you needed if you needed replacement parts and components and spacers and all these other things that you'll need for the support of the chassis. And it was expensive. You know, nearly 8-10 years ago, this stock was $2,000. And, you know, coming from someone who has, you know, my first rifle probably cost $500, to spend $2,000 on a chassis was hard for me. Like, you want to justify the price or you want to unjustify the price. Well, there's $2,000 ridiculous. No stock should ever cost that much. But the old saying that quality always costs less in the future, that sort of fit in this one. So when I got the first one in, I had asked and talked to Lisa at J. Allen and got it in, and I fell in love with it. And just because I was so passionate about the stock, and we had it here at the shooting school, a lot of other customers felt the same. So when MDT announced that they had purchased the rights to it and they were going to redesign it, I sort of took that step back and wait approach to it to see if it was going to be as good as the original, see if there was things that I liked or disliked about it, to see if it really was going to be the J. Allen or something that just simply looked like it. Talking to the folks at MDT, they said they tried to stay as true to the original design as possible. They made some modern manufacturing technique changes to bring it into modern manufacturing, but the core of the rifle remained the same. And so I just took a wait and see approach. You know, you always assume that it's going to be exactly what it was supposed to be, but you want to see, you know, did they really hold up to it, or, you know, is it just, you know, sort of a knockoff, right? Well, I'm glad to say and excited to say they did it. I'm going to roll some footage of me and Richard here at the range, and Richard made a comment as soon as I was on the gun, and he had made the comment, he said, "My God, you look comfortable on that gun." And it's because I shot it for so long and it feels exactly the same as it did 10 years ago. So first of all, I'd like to say way to go MDT for doing a great job at really making the chassis what it was and keeping all of the original design features that made it so comfortable. I mean, I loved it to pieces. Some things to talk about the chassis, and I did a little overview. We run a little video here and there talking and showcasing, you know, what the insides look like. But a lot of the stuff that the original JAE came with, a lot of the design features, how you can take the cheek piece on and off if you're cleaning the rifle, if you need to get your bolt out on long actions. How there's a friction stop down below as you adjust your cheek piece, then you can lock it. The butt pad is removable, which I actually removed mine. The spacer system looks exactly the same. I have some of the original JAE-700 parts. I've kept them in case any customers ever needed them, but I don't have them to lay out here to AB the originals. The inlet of the chassis almost looks identical. I can't really see much. Now this chassis was actually used. We took it to the range and shot it with one of our test rifles. But the fit, the finish, the quality, I mean everything about the chassis, they did just a fantastic job. Now let me explain a couple of things why I like the chassis so much, and then we'll dive into some of the other details when it comes to the review. It has a vertical grip, but it also has a very comfortable, what I would consider a natural ergonomic grip, especially for my size hands. Now maybe different size hands are going to cause some different issues, but I really like the grip on this rifle because of how it sets into my hand. And you have a couple different thumb placements, so you could wrap, around. My thumb I just laid off to the side of the tang, right at the corner. But the grip right out of the gate is probably the key. I love how the traditional stock line, Richard, when he had shot it, said that he had thought it reminded him a lot of the original Accuracy International chassis, with just how it felt, like the bulkiness of it, how the cheek piece sort of set up on. And both he and I shot the AI chassis forever, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we fell in love with the stock so much, is that although they look totally different from one another, they feel very familiar, and so maybe that's one of the reasons why. The bottom of the stock, one of the things that I liked a lot about it, that just for me was a winner, even when I changed from the original AI chassis that I shot forever and migrated to the J. Allen, was I do like how they did the bag rider to give you some real estate here, and then also a nice little undercut. So a lot of times you'll see bag riders that are either too short and stubby and stick in the bag. They don't have real estate to let the rifle slide. So if you see where my fingers are at, then the rifle can move. And it's just riding back and forth on a very nice round port. So your recoil is always going to go to the rear. So when you shoot, it slides forward. You can push it back in the battery. And then you also have lots of room. This is all flat until you get to this, which is the toe of the rifle. Of course, you don't want that digging into anything, right? Including the ground. But nice real estate here, and a nice area that I can get my hand in and hold the bag and have some real estate here for my hand to not come into contact with the chassis. Again, one of the problems with a lot of your modern design chassis is that the grip is too close to the back of your bag supporting hand. One thing you can do with the J. Allen, that especially the old, is you could actually take these two screws off and you can remove this giant plate. And that actually allows more room for your hand, as well as just a little bit more of a smoother design. So as you're dropping the rifle down in the rear, downhill, it gives you a little bit more breathing room underneath here. So picture us trying to shoot uphill a little bit. Right there, we've got to raise our bipod. So when we remove that grip, we can go down a little bit more in the back, or in this case, and have more real estate between the bottom of this plate area here, which can ride off of a bag, by the way, and the ground. Now, I get it why some people might like this, actually, because you could actually set the bag underneath here. It gives you two spots, right? And it's a nice flat area that you could sort of, get the rifle to track if you needed to, sure. But I actually removed that on mine. It does have an adjustable magwell. This is one of the things with the J. Allen, is they had a patent on how they can adjust the magwell and tighten it this way. So this piece tightens back and forth. And then this is the original design, as far as I can tell, is that they have two set screws and a way to get a little Allen key in here and adjust the locking mechanism up and down. So you can tighten your magwell this way, and then you can drive it up in to feed properly. And as much as that sounds like a very silly thing, and I always say that sometimes when you give people too many tools, especially with adjustability stuff, is they can get things really far out of control or out of whack. They just don't work real well. The J. Allen did a great job of allowing to move this center piece here, the whole block to the rear, and then adjust the mag up. And so it's setting up at the appropriate level to feed and function. The original J. Allen, to be truthful, was a little bit of a struggle. So as much as the magazine adjustment was sort of necessary because you've got so many magazine manufacturers out there that getting them set, they all sometimes need a little bit of adjustability, but to be truthful with you, the JA Allen was a little bit more of a struggle in the original design to get it to feed and function perfectly. We did have to modify some lips and some little tricks and techniques that we've always had to do, but we still had to modify some of the old things that was the old way of adjusting them along with the new adjustabilities. Time will tell over time as we move this forward if they've made any adjustments to it to make it easier. But so far everything seems to be working great. They definitely took some time to rethink. I can see some different tooling and cuts in here that probably was them modifying it to allow for a little bit more user adjustability and a little bit more fine tuning. The inlet of the chassis itself, if you can see inside here, really nice machining. I mean, when they redesigned it and reintroduced it, if you can see in there, they did such a fantastic job of just paying attention to the details. And then the other thing that I liked a lot with it too was it's got sort of a grip to it. Like a lot of your chassis are all aluminum or all magnesium, and that's not a bad thing. But sometimes with gloves on in the pouring down rain in cool weather, think of like matches that we've shot back when it was 45 or 50 degrees out, they suck after a while. I mean, you have to have gloves on, and you've got convection and you've got conduction, right? And so when we're holding on to aluminum things or metal things, they tend to drag on you a little bit more as far as making your hands freezing cold. So I love the chassis, the fact that all of this is either coated or it's rubberized a little bit for grip, that when you're running the rifle itself, you're not hanging on to a lot of aluminum parts. You're sort of protected and maybe have a little bit of a barrier between it. They have your traditional M-lock system with it. Traditional Arca rail system, I believe they did some things with the M-locks on the sides. I believe they're going to come out with a lot more accessories. They did put the swivels, and so you can put your slings on the sides. On both sides of the chassis. So if you're carrying your sling left or right, you have that. And, you know, overall, I would say that they probably nailed it. You know, if I was to give it a percentage to the original, probably it's probably 96, 97, 98%. If you sat and blind tested these side by side with the original JA Allen, unless you could physically start looking at everything under the cover, you might be able to pick up a little difference, but outside of the feel and shootability of it, just fantastic job. So me personally, if I was looking at a chassis, I would not hesitate to look at this. Now, it does have some limitations, of course, like with the ACC Elite and those type of chassis, you can put weights inside and you can do all of these things to really beef up. And I believe you're going to start seeing some of those attachments come out here. You might see, like, they do have the Arca rail system down here, which gives you a nice flat area to run the rifle. So with the Arca system, one of the things I like a lot with chassis is they have the availability of a nice flat spot or something to be able to jam against the sides that are flat. And so they give you that. And the outside is smooth, although you'll see the inlet for, I believe they're for M-locks, but it's, if you're against a solid flat edge, you're not going to feel those like a grate or, you know, if you run alongside of a door frame or something. And then you might choose to run an Arca to get rid of the pick rail. I put a pick rail on here for our testing for one of our bipods here. But so what can I say about it? I think this is a great stock. I mean, it's probably a little bit heavier than a Macmillan A3 or A5, fully decked out, fully adjustable, maybe by a pound or so. Now, weight-wise, through the magic of TV, we've got a scale here, but it looks like we've got a stock that weighs somewhere around 6 pounds, 7 ounces, which is pretty reasonable. But when you get into, of course, your ultralight stocks, like the HNT 26, you've got, 1 pound, 12 ounces, compared to 6 pounds, 6 ounces. And so you've got, a 3 or 4 pound weight gain over your lightest hunting chassis available. But when you get into your actual chassis themselves, if we just take, just a MDT LSS, bone stock, 4 pounds, 10 ounces. So, maybe a pound and a quarter, pound and a half over. So weight-wise, what I would give it is a long-range hunting rifle, sure. If you put a carbon barrel in here and use a lightweight, like if we get it inletted for the Bumblebee such, this would make a really kick-butt long-range rifle for sure. Maybe they'll come out with some lighter weight spacers. Of course, you could take the end cap off. We could drop the pick rail that we added. You know, just these are penny savings in ounces, but there are some things you could do. So I wouldn't be afraid of using this for a varmint rig. I actually used it for my long-range varmint rig for quite a while. And it's just heavy enough that it would run great in matches, especially if you think like a 22 Creedmoor or 6mm. You might want to add a little weight to it, but still it's not unbearing. So, you know, you can move the rifle around and get it to where you need it to be. So let's kick over to some video work that we did and an in-field review, and then we'll come back up and finish this session with just some final thoughts. So I asked Richard just to do a little bit of filming real quick and just touch base. You guys might have seen this running in the background. We made our own barrel coolers years ago because of how much we shoot and how hot the barrels get. People ask what this is in the video running sometimes, and so you'll see this on our store if you'd like to buy one. We send you one. Rechargeable barrel coolers help flush the heat out of the suppressor. So just in case you're asking, and for those that have asked, these are our homemade barrel coolers that are rechargeable and do a great job of moving massive amounts of air through the rifle and through the suppressor. Now, just real quick, this is the new JAE-700. I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth review once we get back to the shop, but we want to take it out and shoot it a little bit and just to see how true it remained to its original, you know, format of the JAE or J. Allen version. And I got to say, Richard could probably chime in from the background. It was like an old friend. I mean, as soon as I jumped on the gun, right back, super comfortable. Feels really familiar. For those that have shot at J. Allen, they really nailed it. It's the same stock, minus the things that they thought that they could upgrade or maybe make a little bit better. This is one of our prototype rifles too. This barrel had been shot out. It has our next generation patent installed in, and we'll be talking more about that in the future. It's one of the reasons why this is marked 6.5 Creed test, if you wanted to know. And we'll be talking more about some of the modifications, but basically this rifle here was completely shot out. We did our next generation inventions with the barrel, I guess you would say, and brought it right back to life to consistently shooting, you know, half minute or better, and still running there today as we're testing it through the winter. But J. Allen chassis from MDT so far, you know, I'm always honest when I say what I like and don't like. They did a fantastic job. You wouldn't know it wasn't the original getting behind the gun so far. I would like to adjust the length of pull to myself a little bit better. I can adjust the cheek piece a little bit more. Richard said it reminded him a lot of the older AIs, just a traditional feel for it. But so far so good. But when they get a chance to out at the range here a little bit and shoot it a little, and then come back in and do an in-depth review, we're going to take the barreled action out and sort of go over some of the things that we see and like, and just sort of break it down in bits and pieces. So just a little field review while we get back into the shop and do our video review inside. So thanks for joining us here. We'll see you inside when we get this thing torn apart and show it to you in detail. And Richard, would you like to add anything?
No, I think it's got a good feel. I don't think anything specific that I really liked or disliked about it. I was actually having trouble finding somewhere to put my thumb. Mm-hmm. That's the only weirdness that Richard had, but that's just because I'm unfamiliar with it. You jumped on the gun and looked like you've been shooting it for years, which was like, I'm like, holy heck, look at that. So yeah, for me, it was just unfamiliarity. But yeah, solid. It's got a nice feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like cold plastic. It's kind of, you know, it's got this nice tactile feel to it across the whole thing. But I just had problems with situating when I got up on the tang, like Jamie was shooting it, you can see where my finger ended up. And I didn't feel comfortable with that. And then I was trying to get back here and I couldn't figure out what to do with my thumb, which was kind of weird. In the end, I was punching it on here with a big old gap. Yeah.
And you're very used to shooting an AI type
chassis?
Exactly.
So I'm used to having, you know, but I've been shooting my AI thumbs up now for the last,
that's right,
you know, probably year. So I don't know. I think it's just a matter of getting used to it.
Yeah, and so just to keep going with the review, like my natural position for the hand is here, and I think some guys are going to find that they're either going to wrap around or they're going to bring it up on the other side. But yeah, I mean, I shot this chassis for 2 years when it was the old J. Allen and loved it. The only reason I sold it is because they stopped making it. And didn't want to shoot something and tell customers this is a great stock and then them not have the choice of purchasing it. But so far so good. I just wish it was in another color other than black. It was just the first color that we could get.
Nothing that can't be solved with a rattle can.
That's right, that's right. Well, all right, we'll get this one indoors and do a little indoor review with her as well. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for checking it out. This chassis, this JAE-700 is mine. I'm going to put it on the school line as well for customers that are coming in for our online long-range shooting school, that they can get a chance to shoot it here and enjoy it. And then, of course, it'll be on our stock wall for customers who would like to come in and see our facility and check out some of the chassis and get their hands on them. It's a really great way to take a look at them before you buy them. Of course, you can reach out to us and give us a call here anytime, schedule an appointment. Just real quick, we are moving to a new facility in about 6 weeks. We're moving into a 10,000 square foot facility. We're really excited. It's going to be a big expansion to all the things that we can offer and do. And a lot of it has to do with having customers come in and do some of the different things that we do. Let them check out some of the different equipment that we use, some gunsmithing classes in school, some custom rifle building classes, reloading classes, all that great stuff. So we'll give you a video tour of that here in the next couple of weeks as we start getting things moved over to a new facility. But yeah, I've been waiting for this stock. We actually bought and paid for this stock last year. And I did pay for it. It wasn't given to us to give some, review for free. We'll use it here at the school, and I got to say, I'm looking forward to running it. I like a lot of the other chassis out there, but I think, like Richard had said, that I look really comfortable shooting it, and simply because I am. It just fits me well. So get a chance to go out there and get your hands on one and check one out. A lot of our customers sort of felt the same way. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. We really appreciate it and having you here. If you like what we're doing here and you'd like to subscribe, we really appreciate it. You can hit the notification bell. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to us as well. So thank you so much for joining us. See you in the next video.